It's time for South Carolina, the Gamecocks. And I'll say this, Shane Beamer is heading into his third season. And Dustin, you'll remember, I knew he got it when he joined our little radio show late at night, when he first got on the job from the office that Steve Spurrier and Lou Holtz used to occupy. And Shane Beamer just came on and he just seemed like a normal dude. He was really cool, gave us as much time as we wanted, and just seemed like a nice person. From all I understand, and I went to school there, the players love him. And when I say love, like absolutely obsessed with him. You can see the social clips they post South Carolina, and that's important now to flex on the gram as a program, to get clever. You see at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin asking Hasbullah to come to the SIP or whatever the hell he's doing. Like, it matters to make a difference on social, and Shane Beamer's done that. Okay, 8-5 last year, 4-4 in the SEC. But Amal, you mentioned it during the break. What was special about South Carolina's year last year? One, they ruined Tennessee's playoff hopes. And then two, they ruined Clemson's playoff hopes. To pretend like Clemson and South Carolina isn't on the level of the Iron Bowl or Michigan, Ohio State means you've just never been to the state of South Carolina. Within that state, it matters more than anything. I assure you, the win off Clemson is a springboard. We talked about this year and starting the season in Charlotte against North Carolina. I think that game is a springboard for both programs. So it's kind of very interesting that we're talking North Carolina into South Carolina. Drake May, North Carolina, Spencer Rattler, South Carolina. The team, the city, and the university was shocked that Rattler returned. NFL arm, legit, going to be a second, third rounder, as you mentioned it. Amal Shah, if he stays healthy, a legit quarterback. Okay, he's got to cut down on the interceptions. He's got to be more consistent. We'll get to Spencer Rattler. Let me put a pin in him. Let's back up and talk about South Carolina as a program. It stinks. That's it. Now, 6 is the total as far as the regular season wins. They're 90-1 in conference. Forget about those numbers for a second, and let me give you a few numbers from 2011, 2012, and 2013. Steve Spurrier was the head coach. In 2011, the South Carolina Gamecocks went 11-2 and beat Nebraska in the bowl game and finished 9th in the AP. The following year, South Carolina went 11-2. They beat Wisconsin in the bowl game and finished 8th in the AP. And in 2013, South Carolina, led by Steve Spurrier, went 11-2, beat Michigan in the bowl game, and finished 4th in the AP. There should be books written about that 3-year span. South Carolina was nothing before he got there. They've been nothing since he left. Hello, Will Muschamp. I'll give you an idea. When I got to South Carolina and Columbia, Lou Holtz arrived. Everybody was wearing Got Lou t-shirts. Remember the Got Milk t-shirts? Lou Holtz was coming in to change the fortunes in Columbia. Got Lou, got no wins. He went 0-11 his first year. Started to turn it around. Spurrier took over and absolutely recruited his ass off, called an offense, and South Carolina 11-2, 11-2, 11-2, top 10 AP for 3 straight years. That is outrageous. On to this year. Rattler's a 5th-year starter. He's going to be very, very good. The big guy, Dustin Swedelson, who frankly is an idiot, was clowning Rattler during the break. Little does he know that my man was running around like a chicken with his head cut off last year because the offensive line was about as bad as any offensive line in the country. And here's the issue. Here's the rub. I don't think it's going to be any better this year. Antoine Wells is legit the wide receiver. He's a stud. Caught 20 passes combined against Clemson and Tennessee. Trey Knox, the tight end that transfers in from Arkansas, is a pro. The offense is very, very good. Marshawn Lloyd is now the running back at USC. That stinks. However, Juju McDowell is legit, and they've got a cast of running backs that will support him. Okay, the offensive line is the huge question. Defensively, they've got a bunch of vets. I'm going to be straight up with you. As a South Carolina alum, they've got vets. They're just not very talented. I don't love them. They allowed 200 yards or more 7 times on the ground last year. The secondary was killed because they couldn't get pressure up front. Again, 8-5. They overshot the expectations and overshot what I think was a talented but not very talented team at 8 wins. Beating Tennessee and dropping 63 on them was freaking insane, and the beating Clemson and dropping 40 plus on them was also insane. Consistency is going to be the key for Beamer in year 3. They've got to cut down on turnovers. Momentum. Momentum is a word, and it's very nebulous. Do you agree? Do you believe? Yes, no? Well, if there's momentum coming in for the South Carolina Gamecocks, I would say it's beating Tennessee and Clemson, Amal Shah.
There's no question about it. I thought those were the 2 best back-to-back wins by anybody in college football. I don't know if they're going to be able to duplicate that this year. You mentioned it defensively. They give up almost 200 yards per game on the ground at 198. If you can't stop the run in this league, you're going to be in serious trouble. You mentioned the perimeter. Antoine Wells, they bring in Eddie Lewis to transfer in from Memphis. He was second-team All-American Conference. He's got a chance to be a good compliment to Wells. And Nick Harbor, the kid out of the D.C. area, 6'5", big-time recruit. This was a big get for Beamer. I think he should help this offense. But again, it comes down to the O-line and the defensive line, guys. If they're not intact on that side of the ball, and the season win total, Patrick, you said is at 6?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to tell you, I hate to tell you this, buddy, under. It's
a 6-win team. I agree.
It's a 6-win team if everything goes properly. Look, they're a 2.5-point dog against North Carolina. I don't know where you guys come out. I'm still going to give South Carolina the edge in that game against UNC because I actually think North Carolina's defense is actually worse than South Carolina's, which is hard to believe.
I'll say this, and just as an apology to start the conversation with the big guy, I agree with everything, Amal, you said about my Gamecocks. Somewhere in that conversation about South Carolina, I called you an idiot. So I just want to apologize. I was still stinging from a comment you made during the break about Rattler. Maybe you can relay the message. And again, idiot's a bad word. I used to say bad things. I'm a 45-year-old man. I just can't be calling my coworker and one of my good friends an idiot out of nowhere. But frankly, the comment you made was idiotic. Would you care to defend yourself?
Look, we've all been on the Spencer Rattler hype train. It feels like for more than half a decade. Like we've been talking about how special his talent is, and I just think for all the talk I've heard since the season ended about him coming back and the expectations for him and his talent, it's just like, I thought the numbers last year were going to look better. That's all. Like he was fine. He was a solid quarterback. 18 touchdowns, 12 pickles, 3 rushing TDs. He's athletic. I like his arm. I like his NFL talent. He's definitely a development guy. He's not walking in day one and starting in the NFL. But we've been talking about this guy for a very long time. And if we're in a results business, the results just aren't matching how we speak about him is all.
I would agree with you there, but I think the success against Tennessee and against Clemson, and Patrick, you brought up a great point. I think people overlook, you may not be from the Palmetto State, and you may not appreciate the rivalry in so many of these places, Arizona State, Texas A&M. If you're not from that part of the country, you don't have an appreciation for how good these rivals are. That could really propel this team. I love Beamer's personality, what he brings to the table. They've gotten some recruits from players that you thought were going to go elsewhere, but the lines. And we know in the SEC, you better be able to dominate the line of scrimmage. And these guys are bottom feeders in this league when it comes to the lines of scrimmage.
That's fair. I mean, everything you both say is fair. Dustin's right. The statistics aren't gaudy. But if you watch South Carolina, all kidding aside, he was running around like crazy. He was just making something happen. And I'll say this, South Carolina football, fellas, has been around for 115 years. Last year was the 15th of 8 wins or more.
Wow. And look, this with the schedule lined up the way it is, this thing could spiral and get out of control really quickly. If you lose to North Carolina, you'll beat Furman, but then you're right. At Georgia. Mississippi State's a wild card. You're in Knoxville. Who knows what we're seeing out of Billy Napier in Florida, but you should expect them to be better. At Missouri and at Texas A&M back-to-back. Missouri stinks, but Texas A&M has a ton of talent. And then you have Kentucky and Clemson to close it. I think Kentucky will be good. I know they'll be well coached. And then the rivalry game with Clemson, that could decide your win total right there.
Correction, 5-win team.
I was just going to ask you, Dustin, where do you come out?
Under.
I do too. They're not getting 7 wins.
I'm being honest. Why aren't we talking more about Spurrier going 11-2, 11-2, 11-2, 3 straight years and finishing in the top 10 with South Carolina football? What? Shout to Shane Beamer.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.